Hello there, Formatted Bull here, and today I am doing what the title of the video has told you, that my friend group and I have decided to drop Todd in and see how long we can survive the wonderful yet chaotic world that is RimWorld. I've given the group sheets to best describe them as best as possible with items that they brought along for the trip, as well as pets and other things that they could bring on the limited list that they could grab. But other than that, let's get right into the video. As the group make their way into their new home, Jacob thrown up from cryo sickness as the group moves all the resources back from the pods all the way to the new home. I also had to come back over here to delete all the old farms as I was originally planning on building the home here. But I decided to build over here since it's a little bit more defendable. I have Tyler start mining into the side of the mountain so we have our future home all set in stone. I also decided to make a couple beds for the group so they have a place to rest and not sleep on the ground. But as we continue on, the group keeps bringing resources from the drop pods. Tyler keeps mining through the side of the mountain. This is kind of going to be the main portion of this early on series of RimWorld. I decided to open up the priorities list, turn on the manual, and turn Tyler's mining to 1 so I can mine a little bit faster, Tanner's to construction to 1 as well, and Lathan's construction to 2. Seeing that I can't really change anyone else's of how early this is going on, I decided not to change anything else. No, Tyler, just mine away through that mountain. You go, bud. As I cut some trees for the new farm, I look around and see that I still have to select a couple of woods and metals for the group to collect for further building, which I'm glad I actually noticed because that was a lot of wood and metal I would have just left on the ground there. But I think it's time to show the group's traits and skills so you all get to see what we're bringing to the table here. Starting off with Tyler, he has a mining of 17 with Ground Pounder, making it easier to mine through stone and rock. He also has a melee of 13 with Athletic, Jogger, and Thick Skin, making it better for combat. As I also have an experience point, I have Drilling, Prospecting, Tunneling, and Geology, which I believe tunneling is going to be the best for the future. Next up is Tasia with Cooking of 13 and Medical of 14. She has Joyce and Fun 11, which will be a good morale boost for the colony. Next is Ryder with a Social of 16 and Artistic of 11. She has Trigger Happy, which will be good for combat as well. Next up is Maya with plants at 11 and shooting at 8. She also has Trigger Happy, but she also has Squeamish, making her sickly around dead bodies. Next is Moody with Cooking of 20 and a Social of 13. He's given the Tycoon trait, which will be helpful when it comes to trading with other factions. Next up is Lathan with Animals of 15 and a Shooting of 11. He has Animal Lover and Hard Worker, which setting up an animal farm is going to become quickly early on. Next up is Ben with Shooting of 15, Artistic and Social at 10. He has Sniper and Careful Shooter, making him a long range specialist. Next up is Jacob with shooting at 11 and medical and social at 13. He has athletic and fast walker, making him move around and help people faster. And finally, Tanner with shooting at 17 and construction and crafting at 15 and 14. He has jogger and fast walker, helping him move faster, and trigger happy to help with combat. Now that you know the group a little bit better, it's back to mining out through the mountain, building the beds, and farming. Like all RimWorld playthroughs, there's always the quiet before the wild storm that's going to sweep up and try to kill us. So hopefully I'm going to be prepared for that. As Tyler mines to the mountain for our future home base, the farm's actually starting to look like something, and the group is still trying to move all the stuff from the pods into the pile. Ben and Tasia finally become lovers, which is actually quite beautiful and very charming of Ben and Tasia, until I absolutely forget 3 seconds later when I see this pile of wood that hasn't been selected. Hey, look at that wood. As the clumsy trait finally shows itself, Maya stubbing her big toe, and the fact that we have medicine right by her, we ended up using an entire medicine on her. Hopefully in the future I can have it separated a little bit farther so they can heal it before they use an entire medicine pack to heal one bruised toe. As I make the dining hall and crafting area, I also decided to add the storage right next to it, making this tunnel actually starting to look like a home. Also making the work for Tyler that much more. This job seeming a little bit too much for one man to handle. As day breaks and the group starts shuffling more woods from the forest, I decided to look around the map to see if I can find any ore that's worth valuable, only finding some steel and some components. I was really hoping for uranium, gold, or jade, and like the goldfish brain man I am, I decided to get distracted on the animals of this world, then just moving my camera around. Yep, goldfish brain. Remember, I actually have a colony to look after. I see that the tunnel's doing a little bit better, the farm's looking a bit healthier, and the beds, well, still out in the open. So I decided to make a house for them. Not the prettiest house to mind you, but it'll have a roof, which will at least make them a bit happier when they're sleeping at night. and it'll give the stuff on the ground at least a little bit longer life expectancy. I also start planning of covering up that little patch on the side of the mountain and make my own kill tunnel. So if there ever is a raid, I'll be actually ready for an attack and not with my drawers down. Who says drawers anymore? I guess I do. As home base is actually starting to look like home and the tunnel is actually turning into something, but very slowly as it's only one man mining out an entire mountain. As I decide to make a stockpile zone and move all the rocks out of the way, I give Tyler even more places to mine, really hoping that we find at least someone with another mining skill as high as Tyler's. Hopefully, eventually. As a frigate threatens the world, I also didn't realize that Moody and Maya had become lovers, which is actually very nice. I also changed the drug policy for the group to no drugs except for one person, which would be Tanner, as he's the only one that has this stoner trait. And if you didn't see it before, well, here you go. If you need it closer, here you go. What you want it closer? Okay. Well, here you go. Any closer, it'll probably just be a bunch of pixels that you wouldn't be able to read. So yeah, other than that, continuing on, and surprisingly, a wild space pig decides to attack me. For being the first challenge, I only sent two people, Ben and Tanner, to fight it. And just as fast as it showed up to the base, it was as quickly dispatched. I probably shouldn't have given the group machine pistols. I probably shouldn't have done that. Well, don't turn it back now. I decided to give Tyler the first bed as he's the one that actually mined out the rooms, as he continues to mine out another room. Surprisingly, Tyler has gone pretty quickly at doing this. As we finally get a roof to the base, the group falls asleep. Lathan decides to cut down the trees right next to the group's bed, and he decides to do this all night long. I mean, literally all night long. He does this until morning arrives. As morning finally does arrive, I start placing torches inside the base, giving visibility to the entire group so they have places to work and see. As I'm finally given the prompt that I can name the base, you're about to see that I'm not really good at coming up with names, as I sat there for probably about 5 minutes trying to come up with something, and just to finally call it the boys and girls, and call it the group home. Yeah, not the greatest at coming up with names. But continuing on, I decided to keep mining into the mountain to make the base a little bit bigger, and I decided that the base actually needs an upgrade, adding Stonecutter's bench to it, a research bench, and a butchering table, which I don't even add a cooking bench, and I just make this part into filler. So, how are you doing? How's your day? You doing good? That's good. I'm having a good day too, and I hope you all have a good day for the rest of your lives. I have no problems whatsoever. But other than that, continuing on, I also realized Tanner is just sleeping on a bunch of rocks that can't really be comfortable. As the AI is self-aware, he gets up and runs away. Oh, and I finally get an actual raid. And the raid, I can't wait. It has to be a big old challenge. What? What is this? What? What is this? What is this? Well, a raid still being a raid, I guess I set the group up to handle this raid. I decided to send everybody on the front lines, so no one's at least left out on this. Though it's probably going to be really overkill, but why not? It's fun. It's my actual first raid, and I'm actually quite excited to see how this is going to work. I sent Ben out first to take the nice first shot with his rifle, and surprisingly, the very first shot he's ever taken with that rifle is a hit. As the raider closes in the distance, the group absolutely mow it down, and seeing that it actually survived, I decided to tend to the raider. Seeing how resilient it is, I think it'll actually be a nice addition to the colony. So I patch it up as best I can, pick it up, and then turn my old bed into a prisoner bed to put the bloody raider on my bed. As Moody is sent to recruit the raider as he has the inspiration of recruitment, it doesn't take a whole lot of time before finally we have a new addition to the colony. And that's when I also realized this person's name is named Rubout. Yep, get it out of your system. Our brand new colonist that we just got to the base is named Rubout. So as she decides to rest off her old injuries, I checked her skills, and surprisingly, she has a skill of 17 in mining. Finally, Tyler will actually have decent help when it comes to mining out the mountain. Now that he's not alone, it should take at least twice as fast to mine out the entire mountain. So I extend the base a little bit more, so the new recruits have a place to sleep. As I start putting up fences for Lathan's animal farm to finally take shape, it'll be a while before we finally actually decide to get animals into it. And finally, I decided to add some shelves so we actually have a decent storage and place to actually put all of our gear instead of just on the ground, which is pretty disgusting. As I finally wall up the main entrance to the base, the plan of the murder tunnel is now on the way. As I find a nice, neat little area to put the tunnel in, and finally give the order to Tyler and Rubout to mine it out. So hopefully in due time they'll be able to mine it out pretty quickly. But in the meantime, I'm going to be setting up torches around the base so the colonists actually have places to see inside the base, as well as finally setting up the final rooms for the quarters, now that the group will actually have their own rooms that they can call their own. As I finally set up a dining room table to get rid of the debuff 8 without a table, summer has officially begun, making the nights hot and the days even hotter, as I set up multiple chairs for the colonists to the joy of cells. I also decided to set up some torches so the colonists can see. As I slowly finish up the tunnel, I decided to add walls to lengthen it even farther, making it so enemies and raiders won't be able to use the corners for cover, slowly making my tunnel that much more complete in defense. As I finally get power, I make a chem fuel and wood powered generator as I stretch cables all throughout the entire base, giving me power. As I make an AC unit, giving my base cool air. As I start smithing research, I also start to realize most of the animals are stepping outside of the home base, which is not really good, so I check the home zone areas and realize that it is displayed all around the map from my earlier placements. So I get rid of them and set all the animals' zone allowed areas to home zones. That way they're out of harm's way whenever there's a raid, so they're not out in the open, completely vulnerable from attacks. As I set up some refrigerators so I don't have to worry about food deteriorating in storage, as long as I have power to them, allowing me to fully stockpile on food now. As I finally settle in for the day, our base gets another raid from the Red Tree Bandits. As I scroll up to the raiders to see what they're packing in, oh, they got guns. And some decent ones as well. This one has a battle rifle. Oh boy. As I get the gang in a position in the unfinished defense tunnel, hoping the rock will provide some at least decent cover, as I scramble to put each person in a decent place to hold out, as the bandits begin to run into the tunnel as I ready for combat. And just when combat was about to start, the worst time it happened, a transport pod. I don't have time for this. I need to fight. Just as combat started, Tyler gets shot in the head from the battle rifle, already giving me trouble. As I send Tyler back, I almost immediately send him back out to put pressure on the raiders. As it seems to be working, a man with a gun would never really expect a crazed maniac with a club to charge them. And oh boy, were they wrong. As the group helps Tyler dispatch one raider, we rush to the other raider, to close even more distance on the raider with the battle rifle. Tyler already making sure that they won't get away after shooting him in the head. As the group backs up Tyler, finally finishing the raid, and while Tyler gets his sweet, sweet revenge on the man who put a bullet in his face, I decide to give him a little bit of a checkup to see how much damage he really did to him. And surprisingly, he actually did pretty good. Just a jaw gunshot wound and a bruise from the battle stock and a crack in his right femur from the stock as well, so not bad, Tyler. Good job. As the group goes to lick their wounds, I set Tyler to help the teeny Mar named Dyer and tend to their wounds, as I bring them back and let them rest and recover, making the group have yet another colony member to the team. As the research on smithing has finally been completed, I decided to research in plate armor to provide more protection for the group, as I also noticed that I've gotten a quest opportunity from Green Rego. There's a lot of color-themed factions so far, as they want a shipment of human skin. Oh boy. After careful thinking, I decide not to take the quest in fear of my own skin getting ripped off by this settlement. As I focus on expanding my base, I grab the firearm that Dyer has dropped and bring it to storage, as I also make a dump zone for the corpses that are rotten in the hallway. This zone will be moved in the future, as I changed research to begin on biofuel refining instead of plate armor. As I also begin on my large farm project, as I plan out where the large farm will be located to mass produce crops, I then proceed to sit and ponder for about 3 to 4 minutes to try to find the best place to set up these posts so I don't accidentally cause a cave-in where Tyler and Rubba are digging. But luckily for you, you don't have to watch as my two goldfish brains try to figure out the precise, logical, and obvious mathematical distance on each post. As I set down the first post, I see that the blueprint isn't really showing. Surely nothing is there, and my goldfish brain is just playing tricks on me, right? Right? But my paranoia will have to wait, as Mash, one of our animals, have gotten the plague. As I send Tasia to quickly help tend to Mash to get him all healed up, that's when Tyler finds it. The Ancient Danger.